Thank you for your answers. We have another questions about innovation and about partnerships.
Great.
The first question is about public-private partnerships are often described as the engine of innovation, but in practice, what does a partnerships that truly works look like compared to one that only looks good on paper?
It's a great question. I think that partnerships that are successful and meaningful are ones where the partner is bringing something to the table that their counterpart does not naturally or easily have access to on their own. So it's where different parts of the innovation ecosystem are bringing their strengths and combining them in a way that would not be possible if those actors were operating on their own. So I want to tie it to a piece of tech history, one of my favorite pieces, which is someone named Vannevar Bush in the Cold War, the early Cold War, was sort of the vision behind the, I think, original public-private partnerships of the US innovation ecosystem. So Vannevar Bush conceived of this triangle of academia, industry, and government, where those three nodes of innovation would come together and work on inventions. And so this was sort of the idea behind the national lab ecosystem that was developed in the United States as a place for scientific invention and collaboration. They were created originally for the Manhattan Project and for the development and creation of nuclear technology. But they have expanded, and there's 17 of them in the United States, 17 of these national labs. They're run through the Department of Energy, and they are the sort of houses of basic research and scientific instruments and public-private partnerships and inventions that are government-led. So where you got things like semiconductors and EUV lithography invented and certain battery chemistries came out of this national lab ecosystem. And so the labs have, in this model of innovation, have been around for a number of decades, more than a half century. And the past few years, there's actually been sort of a wake-up call that this triangle of innovation has kind of gotten warped. So at the time that they were created, the largest funder of basic research and R&D in the United States was the government. The amount of GDP dollars that went into basic research were significant, and the impact of that you saw through things like the labs and these collaborations with industry, academia, and government were very significant. But over the past few decades, the locus of innovation and the source of investment for R&D has shifted significantly to industry. So today, industry is the largest funder of R&D in the United States, and capital markets, so investors are one of the major funders and sources of innovation in the United States. Academia still plays a role, but the question of sort of the level of advanced technology that it even has access to because of the price of these things is a bit of a challenge. And the government, it is no longer the one in the driver's seat of innovation. It is sort of playing catch up to industry in a lot of ways, and still has the national labs that do amazing work. But this sort of nexus of the different nodes of the innovation ecosystem, it's not really a perfect triangle anymore. I like to say there's two new nodes that have been added to those three of government, industry, academia. There's private capital has become sort of a real locus of innovation itself. And then there's the crowd. So was it you who runs a crowdfunding platform? Yes. So you know this well. The individual and the collective sort of has a real role in the innovation ecosystem today. One person can build an app, run a company, create an empire, and also individuals can come together in things like crowdfunding platforms to really play a significant role in driving innovation forward. And there's things like the open source community that I think are a really good example of sort of how the crowd and the individual has an impact on the innovation ecosystem. And so I think public-private partnerships today, the ones that are successful, really think about this new geometry of innovation, where there are these different actors, and understanding what the private sector brings to the table today, what the role of capital markets is, why academia is still an essential part of the equation, where government has expertise and facilities and scientific infrastructure that need to be combined together with these other ingredients, and then what individuals and the crowd are capable of on their own. I think successful partnerships sort of bring those together in novel ways, in unique ways, and that's where the magic happens for innovation.
Thank you. Thank you. It's clear. And we'll talk about the innovation, and especially about the USA innovation like DARPA, ZBand benchmark model
DARPA.
public funding related to the internet, GPS,
Exactly.
and stealth technology. Is this a model that other countries can realistically replicate, or it's uniquely American?
So the DARPA model is very interesting. I think it is so challenging to replicate that even the United States has trouble replicating the success of the DARPA model in other parts of the government. So there are very unique ingredients that go into making DARPA succeed that have a lot to do with the way the defense enterprise and the defense industrial base in the United States works. So I think of DARPA as a case where it is a thriving and successful example, in part because the defense ecosystem is the part of the US government that has been doing industrial policy for decades, and that is basically the way it runs, is industrial policy. The United States government has not done a lot of industrial policy in other technology areas in many decades. It's starting to do so more with things like the CHIPS and Science Act, and with bringing critical minerals onshore, and thinking about supply chains and investments and taking equity stakes in mining companies and things like that. But I think in other parts of the US government, like the Department of Energy, they have an organization modeled off of DARPA called ARPA-E that is sort of bringing together, it's funding really early stage, interesting technologies and seeking to sort of unleash their potential with some government funding. But the challenge is translating that from sort of a successful early stage invention to the later stages of commercialization and scale. So we talked about a little bit earlier that's an area where the United States struggles. I think we've been able to do it very well in things like DARPA because there's this whole defense industrial base and industrial policy ecosystem around it. In things like the Department of Energy, we don't have as much muscle tissue there. We need to rebuild that and are working on it. And then there's another DARPA model in the Department of Health and Human Services called ARPA-H, ARPA for Health, that is doing some very interesting work. It was created sort of in the post-COVID era, and it is doing a lot of sort of biotechnology invention and innovation that's very interesting. And then there's also one in the intelligence community called IARPA. And it's not clear that those three sort of modeled after DARPA examples are totally thriving and successful. I think they're really promising. And as the United States sort of works on building back those industrial policy and reindustrialization muscles, that they really do have potential to help be this bridge between early invention and then commercialization and scale. Helping cross the valley of death is a phrase we talk about a lot in US innovation policy. And I think for other countries, the lessons to be learned are the ones that you see the United States grappling with itself as it works on sort of building those muscles. I think the ingredients are different in different contexts. But they require sort of each part of that innovation ecosystem bringing a strength that the other does not. So I think those, to the extent that those sort of ingredients and key roles can be replicated, I think it's a model that can be very successful in other contexts as well.
Thank you. Especially, we're talking about USA, but we will talk about other countries, especially the countries for emerging economy seeking to build its innovation ecosystem. What is the smartest first investment to make? And what's the most common mistake you observe?
Well, I won't promise that, or I won't pretend that I have much experience building innovation ecosystems myself. I'm coming from the policy world and have not really been in the trenches of this world. But from what I can observe and what I've seen, I think that, and where I see technology going, I think that the number one thing that will help any country and ecosystem really level up is getting really good at AI adoption and being able to leverage AI and the way that it is enabling and accelerating all other different technology areas, from biotechnology and medicine to manufacturing, to helping identify totally new materials, to integrating it into new types of manufacturing, to optimizing the energy grid systems. I think that an innovation ecosystem that gets really good at that and builds sort of the infrastructure around it is going to be able to navigate the world that is changing so much because of AI. And if it has different parts of its own innovation ecosystem that are sort of equally conversant and adaptable and flexible and sort of AI ready, I think that will be a major ingredient for success. Your last question was about the biggest sort of misconception or mistake.
Yes.
That I see. I guess I'll just take the easy way out of that one and say ignoring AI or thinking AI is nothing and meaningless maybe is the biggest mistake. I don't think it's something we can ignore. It is this sort of next general purpose technology that is unique among general purpose technologies because it is fundamentally changing humans' relationship with knowledge and information. So everything from perception to decision-making to communications to moving things around in the real world. That's something that AI can sort of augment and automate parts of. And that really changes what we can do with information, what we can do with knowledge, what we can do with invention and innovation itself. So I think that sort of underestimating the potential of AI is the biggest mistake that countries or ecosystems might make.
Yes, and the most important thing in our conversation, it's about the policy building, and it's about how the countries and states observe the innovation and technology and create a framework when the crowd and industries, academia can work together to create another future for our generation. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And now we have a clearer understanding of how these ecosystems are built and what's take to make them work. But even the best designed ecosystem depends on people.
Absolutely.
Trained, prepared, and capable of making the most of it. The future workforce is also about our own careers. And that's what Farah Jamali, a second-year master's student at Tunis Business School, TBS, will explore.